Okay. All right. So, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of ISNAD. This will be our third episode. If you recall, ISNAD's second episode opened new avenues from the questions that were posed during the discussion. Hence, we would like to delve deeper to get some much needed insight on the points raised by the traditional scholar as part of his invitation to the MUBAAHELA and the MUNAAZERA. So let me get into these questions because we have several questions and we have our scholars here today who will delve into answering these questions that we have. So first question, and this is open to everybody. My first question for tonight would be, in between all the red herrings and the side points, were you able to find anything genuinely of substance in the content that was presented?
So maybe one thing I could say, Brother Samir, is that there are various ways of looking at what someone asks you and the way they ask you. And they can come at you from different directions. But at the end of the day, you have to see that what is it that our mission is, our aim is. And a lot of times, people who are approaching you from a certain perspective that might not be a well-informed or a best-informed perspective. So they come with certain biases, or they come with certain, from a direction that is colored in a certain way, with certain lenses, and we can try as much as possible to ignore all the other things that would have come in that are not reflecting a very well understood notion from them on where things stand on our side. So what I'm really trying to say there is that we do husn zan. In other words, we give the benefit of the doubt that someone might not have understood our position very well, and then we take it upon ourselves and put the responsibility on our side to try to clarify misconceptions and try to make things clear. So we take what the Sayyid has said, or whichever scholars have said something about us, from a perspective of husn zan, and give them the benefit of the doubt and try to make things clear between us and them. Firstly, by letting them know that please remember, we are coming from the same background. We are the same people. We are the same community. We grew up together. We ate food together. We prayed together. We went to majlis together. There are all these things. And now all of us are moving in a certain direction. We have a limited lifetime in which to reach our goals. And we are on a journey. All of us are in a journey on Deen. And as we are driving in this car, we are driving together. And we are taking a certain path. And it is possible that some people who are sitting in the car see potholes, see that the bridge that's coming up is rickety. And they point out to the driver and the other people around that I see certain really bad potholes, and if we are going to drive over this, our car is going to get damaged and we won't be able to proceed. If we go over this bridge rather than the other one, then, we might fall through. So what we are doing is pointing out things that we can see. And it would really be arrogant for someone to say that, no, only I can see what is wrong. And if I don't see what is wrong, then no one else has a right to say that we see something that's wrong. No, that would be a very arrogant stance. So the humble stance for everyone, including ourselves, is that when someone stands up and says that there's something wrong, then he is doing it for your benefit because we are riding the same car. And so they should say that, really, do you see a pothole? Do you see the jungle that we're passing through that might jump upon us? Well, we need to investigate that. We need to check it out because we don't want to be eaten by a dangerous animal. We do not want to fall in the pothole. So we're in this together. We're in this car together. And we would like everyone else to know that, look, when we are pointing out these things, we are pointing them out for everyone's benefit, for our benefit, for your benefit. It is in the best interest of everyone to look at what we are presenting, because if there's merit to it, then it's something that needs to be taken up.
Okay.
And that's why I would say that we should look into everyone ought to look into the merit of what is being presented.
Okay, so technically what you're saying is, yes, benefit of the doubt, but then there's also a perspective. So there's a perspective that they're looking at. There's another perspective that maybe we are looking at. There could be a third and a fourth and a fifth. And we have to research and go deeper into this and accept that maybe our notion is wrong. Is that, I mean, we have to be open. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. Everyone has to go with that perspective, in that we could be wrong, because we expect the Christian to feel that way, that we could be wrong. And so let him investigate and see, and maybe, Jesus is not the Son of God. We want the Hindu to feel that way, that maybe we could be wrong and idol worship is not correct. So the same way, we cannot expect that we are an exception. None of us is an exception. I am not an exception. And no, the scholar in question is not an exception, and no one is an exception. Everyone needs to have that feeling that I can be wrong, therefore I will investigate. And that's what the Quran invites us to. The Quran says that go around and look. This is one of the verses that was a turning point in my life when I read it in the Quran, where the Quran says that go around and look and see what is out there, to paraphrase. And you will find that this is the right path. And I did that. I studied everything from Greek mythology to Christianity to a whole variety of religions. And I went through that path. And when I came back to Islam, I was like, this is beautiful indeed. And the Quran can say that because the Quran is confident that it's the right path. A lot of religions will say, do not look anywhere else. Stay here. But the Quran says, look everywhere and then come here, because I want you to come here as an informed person. So I think that's what the approach we need to take. We should not take the approach that do not listen to anyone, just listen to us. No, we take the approach, listen to everyone, and then take the best, because that's where God wants you to be. He wants you to see everything and take the best path. And God said, this is the best path, yani Islam.
So anybody else would like to put in something before I go on a follow-up question? Because I have a very short follow-up question. It's not
Yeah, sure. I would like to.
Yeah.
If
Yes,
it's okay. Yeah, I would like to say another thing that I found to be with merit in the presentation of that scholar was his very beautiful and wonderful observation about how verses of the Quran should not be limited when we interpret them, when we try to understand them. They should not be limited to their immediate context only. Rather, as the scholars of Ulum al-Quran and the Quranic sciences always remind us, it is al-ibratu bi'umum al-lafzi la bi khusus al-sababi. That the real lesson of the Quran lies in the generality of its words, not in the specificity of the situation. So he was speaking in the context of the verse of MUBAAHELA, and he was trying to explain how even though the immediate context is the Christians and the Nasara Najran, the delegation that came from Najran, however, because the words used in it are general, the verse can apply to any similar situation in any place, in any country at any time.
نکته بعدی بحث مناظره هست که این مباهله که آقایان گفتن نمیدونم مباهله با اهل کفار است و غیره. خب دوستان مانیتور من محبت بکنن. ببینید در سوره آل عمران آیه 61 میگه فمن حاجک، هر کس با تو محاجه میخواد بکند، شما اعلان مباهله و کلمه من به صورت مطلقه، نمیگه یهودی باشد، مسیحی باشد، مسلمان باشد، مشرک باشد، بت پرست باشد، لایک باشد، هندو باشد، هر کس. فقط یک نکته را دارد، آقایان گفتن فاء تفریعه، بله فاء تفریعه، ولی تفریع چیه؟ الحق من ربک فلا تکن من الممترین. حق از پروردگاره، یعنی یقین داشته باشی به حقانیت خدا. وقتی یقین داری به حقانیت خدا، شما باید برای مباهله آماده بشید.
So I think if this principle is understood, then so many of the verses of the Quran that talk about shirk or that apparently address the kuffar and mushrikeen of Makkah or criticize the penetration of shirk among the Ahlul Kitab, all of those verses gain a new relevance for us, because then they give us opportunity to ponder and reflect and introspect and soul search and see whether what happened there may also be happening in our case.
Okay, so what I'm getting from what you're saying is that sometimes, I mean, we get, the horse blinders. We get these blinders that make us want to look at things very specific. While, I mean, the Quran is supposed to be from the time it was revealed until the day of judgment. So it should encompass the whole time, regardless of where this is. So these ayats should be able, I mean, they can derive themselves. They have the ability to change to the time. Is that what you're saying? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, exactly. I mean, I'm trying to show how he has solved one of the biggest problems that we face when we try to communicate with our community members, and we bring verses from the Quran, for example, and ask them to ponder over them. And they often say, for example, when it comes to shirk or supplicating to entities other than Allah, they say, well, when we go into the tafsir, the context is saying this is revealed about kuffar and mushrikeen of Makkah, or this is revealed about Christians. This is not speaking to us. And the answer that Ayatollah Qazwini very beautifully gives is that, well, in that sense, even the verse of Mubahala is revealed for Christians, but he's applying it within the school of Ahlul Bayt. So you can see how you don't go by the sha'n nuzul all the time, rather you look at the general. So you look at the wordings of the verse. Are they specific or are they general? And so most of the verses in the Quran that forbid us from supplicating to entities other than Allah, they don't just say don't supplicate to idols, or they don't supplicate to Lat and Uzza. They just say don't supplicate to any entity lesser than Allah. And so that is a general, universal kind of expression that encompasses all entities, be it idols, angels, prophets, imams, saints, all of that. So this is a beautiful way of applying the verses of the Quran, and I think we should be grateful to the scholar for highlighting this, because we've been trying to highlight it. It doesn't get across to our public. I hope after listening to someone like him who is from Qom, they will understand that this principle holds value.
You've just answered the thing that I was going to ask. I felt, my perception is that the presenter was contradicting himself, but it looks like, like even I did not understand where he's, like the contradiction was maybe the way he was presenting it. So I guess it's the way I understood it. But that's the thing about, the ayats, because they might be talking about the mushrikeen of Makkah, but it also sort of applies to us today as well. All right, so thank you for clarifying that for me. Okay, so since we've touched on the mushrikeen of Makkah, so the scholar tried to argue with the revivalist using the verses of the Quran that clearly revealed for the kuffar and mushrikeen of Makkah, and sort of misapplying it to the traditional Shias, sort of. So even quoted a long list of Sunni references to prove his point and show that those verses he was talking about, or they're talking about only the kuffar of mushrikeen. So how would you respond to that? I mean, how can you clarify that just a bit?
Right. You'd want my input on that?
Yes, because you touched on it. So let's continue with you and then.
Okay, sure. Because Yeah, it's true. You pointed out there is a self-contradiction, because in one part of the video, he takes a verse that's actually revealed for the Nasara Najran, the Christians of Najran. But then he says, if we look at the wording is not specific to them. It says, فَمَنْ حَاجَّكَ, whoever, so the use of the word whoever gives us the impression that this is open for everyone else. But then later on, he looks at certain verses that revivalists use to prove that the practice of supplicating to entities other than Allah is shirk and it is forbidden. But then he goes to those verses and he starts lining up Sunni references of tafsir, saying that, well, Ibn Kathir and this, they say this is revealed for kuffar and mushrikeen of Makkah. So what we would submit is that just as what he said for the verse of Mubahala, that because the wording is general, even though the Sha'n al-Nuzul is the delegation of Christians who have come from Najran, but because the wording is general, it can be applied elsewhere. In the same way, all those verses of the Quran that forbid supplicating to entities other than Allah, because they use general terms like وَمَنْ أَضَلُّ مِمَّنْ يَدْعُو مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ, who can be more misguided than the one who calls upon entities other than Allah across the curtain of night? This is general. Allah is not only condemning and saying who can be more misguided than the one who calls an idol other than Allah. No, anyone, any entity other than Allah. So as you can see, because the wording is general, you can't just go to Sunni books of tafsir and say, well, they're saying this is revealed about kuffar and mushrikeen of Makkah. Yes, that's the immediate context. But if today we are doing the same thing under a different banner and using a different nomenclature, well, that's not going to cut it. That's not going to save us from the adhab of Allah. We cannot say that, well, during the time of the Prophet, there was no vodka, there was no whiskey, there was no champagne. So we can't apply the verses that ban alcohol to vodka and champagne and all, because these did not exist during the Prophet's time. Well, that's the whole point of the scholar in the early part of the video, which is that you don't look at immediate context in these kinds of intoxicating beverages. It doesn't matter what the name is. You have to go by the characteristic. And that's the same with shirk and supplicating to entities other than Allah. The Quran puts a blanket ban. It doesn't just say don't call upon idols. It says don't call upon any entity lesser than Allah or other than Allah across the curtain of night, period.
Yes, Kamran.
Yeah, so the idea of like using specific context to kind of like say, oh, this doesn't apply to us because it's talking about someone specific or a specific group of people, it doesn't make sense in light of majority of the Quran, because there's so many stories in the Quran that are mentioned, that Allah mentions. There's stories from way in the past, from cultures and civilizations that are long gone, like Egypt, and like Prophet Musa's story, Prophet Yusuf's story. And we're always told that these stories are here so that we can take the lessons from them. Like that they have that. Why would Allah mention all of these stories that of the past, which we can't really relate to for the specific context, and it's talking about specific people like the Egyptians or something like that. And it doesn't make sense that now for these verses we don't apply the same standard and say, oh, this was revealed for the mushrikeen of Makkah, but we have to take the lesson from it. Like, what is Allah really trying to say? It's like the surface level is like, yes, this was revealed at the time of the Prophet for a specific group of people, but the deeper understanding is for us, especially living 1400 years later, is to get the lessons from these past stories and these messages that was revealed for in a certain time, but we can still use it, because that's the whole point of the Quran, is that it's a guidance for all mankind through all times. So if we apply this to the stories of the Quran, the other ayahs of the Quran, it doesn't make sense that for just this specific thing, for this specific topic, we want to suddenly, limit the ayahs to just a specific period of time. It feels like there's a little bit of, like, I need to do this to, protect this belief and that belief. So I don't know. It seems inconsistent with other parts of the Quran.
I mean, I think this is the thing, that though we know that it's not time bound, we still try and like make it limited. I find that very, very interesting sometimes. But anyway, that's my thinking. All right. So, what are some of the practical manifestations of that ayah, the verse of Mubaahela, for our community? I mean, what do you think of it, or what do you think it's pinpointing to?
So maybe I could say something in that regard.
Yes,
that
please.
We need to look who we are talking to.
Mm-hmm.
So the Prophet brought a message, and he brought a message that was establishing deen in a certain way that was opposed to something that was pre-existing with the mushrikeen and something that was pre-existing with the Christian world and other groups as well. He had a dialogue with the Christian world, and that dialogue ended in failure. And then the ayah of Mubaahela came, that, okay, if we have reached an impasse like that, then let's do a Mubaahela, right? So that was the background of it. Now, when we are talking with each other, like I mentioned earlier on, that we are brethren within a car, within a camp, you're discussing with your brother on something. For example, you're discussing on Zanjir Matam, and you say that it is haram to bloodlet, to hit yourself with knives and have blood come out as a form of mourning. And your brother says that, no, it is perfectly halal, and that is a good and acceptable and even recommended way of mourning. So you're starting to have a conversation, and the very first thing you say is, okay, in that case, let's have a Mubaahela. That's not how it works. That's not what you do. That is not the reason Mubaahela came. That now, your standard protocol or way of approaching someone is that, okay, the moment you agree about something, let's do Mubaahela. This is not the purpose of Mubaahela. What the situation we are in is that we are pointing out that there are certain things that need reform. So if you feel that that is not the case, then let's talk. Let's have a dialogue. Let's not have a Mubaahela. That's not how it goes. Mubaahela, for someone to come at once impulsively and say, let's have a Mubaahela, indicates and expresses not a very good willingness to talk, not a very good willingness, to have dialogue, because they're jumping with preconceptions without having a dialogue to have some kind of contest, to have some kind of rivalry. And I'm going to say that let's put it on ourselves. We'll take the responsibility on our shoulders that maybe we might not have done the best job of expressing to the other side, and maybe this is an opportunity to do that, to let everyone else know. And in fact, I should not even use the word the other side. There is no other side. We are all on the same side. Let's take this as an opportunity to express, to re-express and reiterate that we are all the same people. And we are brothers in faith and sisters in faith, and we can discuss things. And when we mention that there's something that doesn't seem right, we need to talk about it in a way that we are not jumping to rivalry, we are not jumping to controversy, we are not jumping to some kind of debate, we are not jumping to a Mubaahela. No, that's not the stand we are taking. We are taking the stance that we are trying to help each other out. It's a brotherly stance. That's what we're taking. That's what I'm trying to say. We are coming in as brethren in faith, as people who are one people trying to help each other. And this is what we expect from the other side too. We expect the Sayyid and all other people who are listening to come to us with the same husna zan that we are coming to you. We are coming to you with a husna zan. We are coming to you with a handshake of peace, with a good with a good intention and a good expression, and we expect you to return back to us a handshake of peace and dialogue. We do not expect you to return back to us with fighting and controversy and conflict. We do not want conflict. We do not want fighting. We are people who love to have peaceful dialogue. So what the Sayyid is returning to us, we'd like to tell him, calm down. We are all trying to get to the same destination, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we are trying to help you, and we would like you to try to help us. We do not claim that we are the high mantle of everything. No. We need help. Each one of us needs help. And we would like them to say the same thing, that we also need help. Let us all help each other.
Let me give the floor to Sayyidah Hiba Zahra. Please.
Thank you. And I think that's a really good point that Khaya touched on. And I think we need to understand the implications of what a Mubahela means. For somebody to call for that, it inherently means that they think that they're already on the right track. And the outcome of a Mubahela is that the curses of God be on the ones who are lying. So it's like already it comes from a perspective whereby on the surface, you want to make it look like it's such a friendly thing. But if you actually look at what it's implying, it's already implying that the curse of God be on those who are lying about their religious differences. And I think that's such an extreme thing to do. Rather than engage in intellectual dialogue, you're just jumping on the extreme level of calling God to curse the person who's lying. And I think we need to really sit down, and if someone genuinely wants to discuss, then they could discuss like the way we're doing now. I think if a few scholars have taken the initiative to do things on Zoom, I think it's really important to, have a discussion, engage in something like this, rather than call out for God's curse beyond the one who's lying, because you're already putting yourself in a position where you're telling the truth. And I think that's not friendly. It's not the attitude that we want if we ultimately want to call people to reviving the true teachings. And to revive the true teachings, you need to be able to replicate or emulate, rather, the person who was best of all manners. The best of all mannerisms and akhlaq was within the Prophet. And the only reason why the Mubahela was called was after a period where discussion wasn't being taken on. So I think that's just that we need to understand the implications of calling a Mubahela and what it means when you put yourself in that position.
Yeah, so Mubahela is debate, right? No, MUNAAZERA is debate, right? And
Yeah.
Mubahela is it's coming to what? What would you call it? What would be the correct English translation of a Mubahela?
Mutual imprecation, basically. When two parties come and invoke the curses of God on whosoever among them is the liar.
Oh, so it's not like, all right, so it's even worse than coming to a consensus. It's not a win-win situation or anything like that.
Exactly. And so quickly, just to quickly say that if you look at verse 361 of the Quran, it literally reads, if someone argues with you, O Prophet, over this after the knowledge that has come to you, say to him, come, let us call our sons and your sons, our women your women, ourselves and yourselves, and let us pray and invoke the curse of Allah upon the liars. So I think that's important.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's not like it's okay. I'm I always thought it was let's sit down and if we are going to agree to disagree, then that should be it, and you follow your path and we follow our path. But it seems it's more than that. I mean, I'm okay. So it's not like, all right, because if my wife is fighting with me and I say like, okay, it's fine, you know, kind of, she'll tell me I'm patronizing her. So, you know, like this is way beyond that even. I'm trying to wrap my head around this because I didn't know that, you know, there was the curse of God involved in what he was saying. So it's not friendly. It's not wanting to come and debate and, you know, like take the topic and talk about it like adults.
Yeah, if I may add to that, Brother Samir.
Yes.
The whole idea of Mubahela stems from confrontation. So you have reached the last stage, which is a stage of confrontation. We are confronting you. That's what is Mubahela. And what we are trying to tell everyone is we are coming with Salamun Alaikum. Peace be upon you. So we are proposing the path which the Prophet brought, which was Salamun Alaikum. When people confronted him from a completely different side, and it's good that the verse was mentioned and some details of the verse, that people came arguing with the Prophet. So we have to keep something in mind, that all of us should be people who in our mind frame are saying that we want to follow Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the best possible manner. And you want to help each other in following Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the best possible manner. So no one is confronting the Prophet and trying to argue with the Prophet, and shouldn't be trying to do that. We should help each other try to understand the Prophet's stance properly. This is the first thing. And secondly, the basis of Mubahela is confrontation. Brothers work in dialogue and in coordination and in some kind of, the word is missing me right now, but in harmony, if I may. So we should work in the sense of harmony to help each other. And that is diametrically opposed to working with a mind frame of debate and confrontation. I'll even mention debate in there because yes, there is a place for debate, but debate is also something that comes later. Really, what we need to be focused on is dialogue and harmony and an amicable environment of trying to help each other with a good intention, giving a helping hand, receiving a helping hand. And when someone comes and proposes Mubahela, then they're jumping off the gun of confrontation right away. And so what we want to tell anyone who does that is, our dear brothers, our dear scholars, our dear fellow human beings, and our dear fellow Muslims and people in the community, please put the tensions down, recalibrate, bring down your emotions, calm down, and let us take this slow and easy, and let us discuss in a brotherly fashion about what's going on so we could help each other. No one is going to benefit from confrontation. No one is going to benefit from controversy. This should be about coming close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This should not be about trying to make a position in front of people and trying to say that, oh yeah, this is how we hit such and such a group, or this is how we confronted such and such a people. This is not what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about, firstly and ultimately, coming close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and helping each other along that path. And that is what we want to bring to the table.
Salman.
No, sorry, I want to gather my thoughts, but anyways, now that you have, so the question is, yes, of course, what Brother Ali said is perfectly true, that we come with peace, we come with love, and it's very important that we understand that we are together, and it's not about me versus you or some kind of all-out war that we're trying to look for. But here's, and Sister Hiba said rightly so, that if they have come with this call for Mubahela, there's an implication that they assume that, that they believe that they're on the truth 100%. And it's not a good show of intellectual humility in the sense that are open to more ideas. It's like we're done. You can come saying that I come with all the peace in the world, but if the implications of what you're suggesting lead to chaos, naturally there's an inertia to accept that. It's like, it's the last piece on the Jenga. I can say, dude, I'm going to do this very slowly, very carefully. But if you pull the thing out with the biggest smile on your face, it will bring the whole building crashing down. And it's an edifice of hundreds of years of cultures and beliefs that have kept this our community together. And if we start questioning these fundamental beliefs, sadly, what happens then? I mean, is that chaos something that we can face? And if so, how do we face it? And that's one of the biggest reasons that no one wants to sort of entertain this at a more fundamental level. That's my thoughts.
So I'm going to go to the next question. All right. So do you think that there are other more pressing ideas or areas where deviation has crept into our community? All right. So these deviations are what traditional scholars should be trying to sort out and clarifying through research and engagement with the grassroots communities. I mean, how is debating with people who are actually trying to fix these problems in the sect helping the overall community?
Brother Samir, if no one's going to take that right now, I can jump into that. And I would like to submit that it is unfortunate that a number of us are having to raise the concerns that we're raising. Let me repeat that. It is unfortunate that a lot of us who are not people that have dedicated their whole lives to scholarship in the Hausa and get degrees from there and get training from there are having to raise these things. The reason we are having to raise these things is because the people who are supposed to be raising these things are not raising those things. And that is the real tragedy of everything. Because when you see that people sitting, and I have witnessed this, everyone here, and you see a mashaira going on, where there is poetry. And you see a number of scholars in black turbans, in white turbans, they're sitting there, they're part of the audience of the mashaira, and the poets are saying all kind of khurafat, all kind of shirk, even to the degree of making Imam Ali alayhi salam godlike. And you see them silent, and you see them with expressions of agreement and expressions of encouragement. That raises a question for you that the doctor, I want to quote Mullah Sadra. Mullah Sadra has a beautiful book, Kasr al-Asnam al-Jahiliyyah. He's a great scholar of his time. And in Kasr al-Asnam al-Jahiliyyah, Mullah Sadra says that how can you treat a community when its doctors are infected? So we are seeing an unfortunate situation, and I say this with sadness in my heart, and I'm not trying to be critical here. I'm trying to bring it to the table so that we can reform and work on this, that it is sad to see when the people that we are expecting to take up the banner of reform, of revival, of cleaning up house, themselves being part of the problem, that really hurts, and that pierces your heart. And we have unfortunately seen that. A lot of the scholars and a lot of the people who might come and might criticize some of the things that Islaah is doing and some of the reforms it's calling for, you see them in these mashairas, for example, encouraging people in their khurafat, and you ask what's going on. You see them encouraging ritualism that is contrary to what Islam has said, contrary to what the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim Islam said. And then you ask what's going on with that. And then it comes to a very fundamental question, that are our scholars focused on deen? And when I say scholars, I'm talking about the Ahlul Mimbar, the people who are heard on the podium. Are they focused on deen, or are they focused on perpetuating and encouraging and continuing a cultural tradition that has formed over decades and centuries, and they are moving that cultural system forward. We need to make a great distinction between culture and deen. I think I mentioned in the previous episode as well that what Islaah is focused is on the deen part, and unfortunately what a lot of the Ahl al-Mimbar are focused on is on the cultural part and conflating the two. And when these two clash at certain points, you have to make a choice, that you make the choice for deen or do you make the choice for culture. And we are seeing a lot of the Ahl al-Mimbar making a choice for the cultural part, taking the community in its happy cocoon where they're in their comfort zone, rather than pointing out that what you are doing is contrary to deen. And that is the duty of a scholar, that they are supposed to point out and say the haqq when the haqq is needed. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. It takes sabr and it takes guts to do that. And we're calling upon the scholars of the community to stand up to sabr, and to stand up and, have the guts to do what is right. And if they won't do it, then there'll be other people that will, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in the going to go forward, we will raise another group of people to go forward. So when anyone goes forward with the truth and the haqq, they should be supported.
Yeah. Anyway, let me give the floor to Sayyid Raza. Sayyid Raza, please. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Samir. Thank you for passing on the mic to me. And salam to the whole panel and to the viewers. Sorry about my timing. I was a bit late today. But excuse me, I'm Pakistani, so it comes with the territory. I haven't. Just a couple of points. Sayyid Ali Haider mentioned a very amazing point there, because I think, just to correct me if I'm wrong, the question was generally about other bid'ah or ghalat, wrong practices in our community that haven't been fixed. Am I correct, Brother Samir? That was the question, yeah? So yeah, Sayyid Ali Haider set me up nicely for that, mashallah. And he said very wise words, and he brought up a practical element of things that probably the whole panel can relate to, because this is not a phenomenon that none, or I wouldn't say none, but people that haven't been involved in our community, that don't go to our mosques, our Hussainiyas, etc., they won't know this. But because we've been raised as part of the community, we know this, that in our community, in our mosques, in our members, but this is the kind of stuff that's said. Such kalam is said by poets, and I'm going to go one step forward than Sayyid Ali Haider. It's actually not only the poets, it's the people that actually are part of this are the people, the scholars themselves, the people who wear the turbans, be it white or black. They themselves are actually part of the process where they, sorry, 1 minute, where they actually mention numerous types of beliefs on the member that are completely unfounded. They mention stuff that are pure shirk and complete kufr and shirk from the member. And the poet saying it, like Sayyid Ali Haider mentioned, it should be picked up on, and that should be the job of the scholar to put them down. But this is the problem. How can you, and he quoted a beautiful statement by Mullah Sadra, how can you fix the problem when you yourself are part of it? Meaning, and I mean this with all due respect, if you yourself are with that alignment, you can only fix something if you feel it's broken. I'm only going to fix something if it's broken. If you yourself are like, oh, the guy on the member is saying God's given all his powers to Imam Ali and he's all hearing, all seeing and all sorts, full tafweed, and then the Maulana Saab comes on and approves it and adds to it, then he's not going to correct him, is he? So then you have a distinction of two types of scholars here. You have al-awwal, and the first type of scholars who agree with these kind of batil beliefs, and then they also further promote it and endorse it. Cool, that's one problem. The second type of scholars you have, and Ustad Sayyid Kampuri, Hafidullah, has mentioned some of this kind of stuff, that there's certain type of scholars who don't believe in these things and they know they're correct, they know they're incorrect. Lakin, they can't say it's wrong or ghalat because of fear of backlash. So you've got two types of scholars here. So the problem is one, and then you've got two types. Ones that endorse it, that's a problem. And then the other types of scholars who know it's wrong, but then will not speak against it, even though inside their heart they know it's wrong, because of fear of backlash. And this is where following the sunnah of the Anbiya is easier said than done, because this is what the Anbiya are about, speaking the truth and crushing falsehood, no matter how the personal impact you have against you in your dunya. And this is what those scholars are lacking, that are not being able to endorse, to say the truth. So yeah, just to summarize on that, when the problem is with those scholars themselves who believe in it, like I've mentioned in my early videos, the problem doesn't start bottom up, it starts up bottom. Because the top endorses such things, so the bottom feels, and by bottom I'm talking about in a really like a religious term. They feel confident to mention these things. Imagine there was like an environment where it was a shirk and bid'ah free environment, where they knew, the member knew that if I say something a little bit left, I'm going to get pulled up. They'll never say it, because they'll know, people are watching, people are aware. When you have an environment that the guy can come and say, pretty much make Imam Ali God, of course, not say he's God, and then everyone's happy and say, oh, but he doesn't say he's God, and you've got this kind of batil understanding, of course, these things will run rife. So yeah, I've kind of gone on for a little bit, but yeah, just my 2 pence. Inshallah, we'll continue another issue.
No, I mean, what you're saying is right. And I mean, there's so many things. I mean, what you're saying is, what I'm trying to say is that we have sayings, or we have teachings from Imam Ali about, if you do not stand up for an oppressed or whatever, then you also are, sort of going to be charged for that particular thing. You're an accomplice. So, I mean, my question is, don't they know? Or don't they understand?
Yeah, so Brother Samir, again, depending on the category of people, the people that are part of the problem, that actually believe the same as those things that are being said by those people on the member, be it Maulanas or be it the Zakirin, if they actually believe that to be correct, clearly they've lost touch with reality of what is haqq and batil. So they think that batil is haqq and haqq is batil. So they also need remedy, because they themselves are part of the problem. But I think your ishara is more towards those that know it's wrong. So the ones that know it's wrong are the ones that are being quiet for various reasons. And in principle, like you said, very clear, this is wrong. If you don't speak out, you're part of the problem. This is what we've been taught. But when, and I'm going to say this very frankly, Brother Samir, when would you speak against your employer? If your house that you're living in now and everything is linked to you, if it's linked to me financially, and I say something wrong, you've got to be a very strong character to say, actually, you know what, I need to become independent, then I can call out batil. A lot of people have different reasons. Not everyone is linked financially, but for those they are, that's just one reason why they can't speak out against people. Another reason could be, oh, well, I don't want to lose my position in the community. People respect me. Like, I'll give you an example, Islaah. Islaah is not the most liked at the moment, is it? Right? So when you speak the truth, don't expect flowers or hugs. Expect a lot of nasty behavior, a lot of disrespect, and essentially this is the way of those that have no dalil. Yeah.
And then there was a prophet who goes to see the lady who'd been throwing, dirt on him. I don't know if it's a true story, but like when he realized that there was no dirt being thrown, instead of saying, Alhamdulillah, today I'm clean, he actually went to find out if she was okay or not. Again, it's an anecdote that I've heard on the mimbar, so I'm not sure right now if it is a true story or if it's one of these
Brother Smith, sorry to interrupt you. If that was the thing if that was the only thing you heard on the member and we were just debating if that's sahih or not, I would be very happy right now. I wouldn't be on this call. I'll be in bed sleeping. If that was the only thing we would have to dispute, if this is say or no, I would be like, Ma salam, I'm gone.
That's true. That's true.
That's a beautiful story that you mentioned, Brother Samir, and it's also an ibrat for us, especially us here in the Al-Islaah panel and the ISNAD panel, that let us take that in. If people are going to come at us with their nasty reactions, then let us follow the same advice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that they are coming to you like this because they're not understanding you, they're not taking you in properly, but just continue your good work, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to guide your way. And what we saw was that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam continued his good work, and over time people started understanding and they started seeing the sense of the good that he was doing, because what the Prophet was doing, he wasn't coming to them confrontationally and telling them that this and that. He was coming to them and letting them know, I am here because I love you. I'm here because I care for you. I'm here because I want to elevate you and help you move forward and help you move up. And eventually people caught on to it. And so yes, today there might be a lot of people who are not coming to us in the best of manners, but as long as we keep our side of the bargain, which is that we are coming with love and with peace and for the sake of goodness for ourselves and for everyone else, then eventually people will start catching on to that. We just have to make sure that we keep our side of the bargain, and the rest, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything is in his hands. Let me very quickly, Brother Samir, just respond to what you had mentioned earlier about the scholars. I had a chat couple of years back with one of the resident alims of one of the biggest centers here in the United States. And we were discussing on a certain topic, and I told him, but the Quran says such and such. Let us open the Quran and let us look at these verses and see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. And here's the punchline, Brother Samir. He said that, oh, no, do not bring the Quran. Please do not bring the Quran, because I am just a very lowly person, and this is a very pure book, and I don't know about you, but I cannot touch the Quran because that's a very pure book. And that tells you a mindset that, at least a certain good cross-section of scholars promotes or believes in, that Quran is not our book. Quran is the book of perhaps the Ahlul Bayt. Quran is the book of Maraji. Quran is not the common man's book, and Quran is not even the scholar's book, as in mid-level scholars. Let us not touch that. So then you ask yourselves, okay, what are we supposed to refer to? And then you will see a paradigm forming, and that paradigm, which is being promoted and pushed down everyone's throat on the minbar, is that listen to what is in the Tawzi al-Masail, listen to what the Ahlul Minbar are saying, listen to what is coming out from the Hawza. Do not go to the Book of Allah. Do not try to go directly to the aqwal of the Aimma alayhimus salam. And that is a very dangerous paradigm, because when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was preaching to the people, then what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying in the Quran? He is saying that these people who are not listening to you, are not trying to understand you, the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, they're deaf. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls them. And he says even they're dead. They are dead people, or they're like dead people, because they're not trying to understand the book. So we need to change that paradigm, because the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was so self-explanatory that the Prophet was preaching to the people with the expectation that they can listen to this and they can change, it will change their entire lives. So that's what his position should be today as well. And if you see, the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam did not write any tafsir, and you ask a question, why did they not write a tafsir? Because there was no need for them to write a tafsir. The Quran was self-explanatory. Today, yes, we are in need of tafsirs for context, and because the generality of the people do not know the Arabic language well. But at that time, they knew the context and they knew the Arabic language well. There was no need for the tafsir. Not a single one of our Aimma alayhi salam wrote a tafsir. There's no tafsir from the Ahlul Bayt for the same reason. And then they say that...
Do you think the tafsir wasn't written because then we would get stuck to that tafsir of that time?
That is a possibility that can be raised, but then someone would say that, you can always have a tafsir that expands further, and then the tafsir can be expanded further too. So this is one thing. The other thing is that the
tafsir Imam Hussein Askari.
Yeah, that's actually, it has been confirmed that is a forged, he never actually wrote that tafsir. So that was a claim, and that was a forgery. In other words, the claim that he wrote that tafsir was a forgery, and that has been confirmed. It's generally agreed upon. So he did not write a tafsir, and none of the Aimma alayhi salam wrote a tafsir. And on top of that, they told us that if you hear any aqwal of ours, match them against the Quran. This was my main point. Match our aqwal against the Quran, and if they do not agree with the Quran, throw it away, because that means that was not from us. So how can you match the aqwal of the Aimma alayhi salam against the Quran when the Quran is untouchable and you cannot touch it? This is one of our critical foundational issues, is that we have separated, and the whole thing the Prophet was doing was trying to bring them together with the Quran.
Yeah. Sayyid Raza, you've had your hand raised up. I know you have some points.
Brother Smith, if you want to move on, it's fine. I just had a little bit of extra on this if you'd like me to. Otherwise, if you want to
please.
Okay, cool, yeah, no problem. So just to add on this, I just want to give you a couple of examples of how, in terms of speaking out against this, and why some scholars potentially don't, and the minority that do. I'm going to show you that even from the highest level of Shia Imamiyya scholarship, even if you are at the highest level and you speak out, you would think, okay, but maybe if I'm some Dakir or some regular Mulvi, I might get written off, I might get cancelled. But no, it's not only them. Even at the highest level of scholarship, i.e. mujtahids and marjas, when they get the kalam and they write books against this kind of stuff, the community, and guess what? Even the other ulama and the other mujtahids and the other maraja go against them. An example, because I can relate to my own people, is obviously my background is from Pakistan, and there's a scholar from there. Most people will know him, especially from the Indo-Pak. His name is Al-Ayatullah, or the title Ayatullah, al-Sheikh Muhammad Hussain Najafi ad-Dakku. So Dakku is his tribal name because he's a Jat, but his name is Muhammad Hussain. So he is a mujtahid, and he's also a marja. And he was someone who put a lot of work in when he studied in Najaf and stuff. And he then decided and realized that we've got a big problem the way we've realized. But he realized this long time ago. So what did he? He then, instead of staying quiet like other scholars or being part of the problem in the way that they endorse it like other scholars, he chose to refute it. And publicly, not privately, in closed rooms where people are telling us in Islaah, let's go discussions in closed rooms, and then that's fine. No, he's done it publicly. He's a marja, and he wrote books against the issue. And when he done this, there was a big backlash in Pakistan. And I'll give you a small example. He said that Shahadat Thalitha, meaning the third testimony, this is just one of many, by the way. He said that the third testimony in Adhan is bid'ah. In India or Pakistan and stuff, they went crazy after him. All sorts of fatwa, all sorts of name calling, insults. They called him a Wahhabi Shia, etc. And he's a marja. So I'm not expecting Al-Islaah to be getting called any other name, but like the same names he was called. But the point I was to show you is that even some scholars and mujtahids started issuing fatwas against him, publicly and quietly. So it shows you that even when the scholarship so high speaks out against these issues, there's an internal backlash, and not only from the juhala, rather from the same scholarship of the same rank speak against each other. So it shows you that it's not about, oh, well, you're not qualified, you haven't gone to a hawza. The problem, even when the highest up speak, there's a big backlash. And until this day, he's like a blacklisted name, like he's just, some weird type of guy. When his books are available, he's done the most work against tafweed, against bid'ah, against shirk. And he's an amazing scholar. Pray for his health. He's in Pakistan. and he's quite elderly now. So Allah give him a long life and bless him for all his work.
Yeah, it's what we were discussing in episode 2, and the guys who actually have come up and talked about this. And these are huge names with some amazing pieces of work, but they're either in house arrest or their books have been banned. I mean, this is all in our second episode. But yeah, I mean, what you're saying is very, very correct. Sister Khadija, would you like to add something?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to say that the problems within our community, definitely there are grassroots problems that exist. And most of these things, see, where does the ilm come from in our community? It mostly comes from majlis, right? And we give our all our ilm, whatever we need, the religious knowledge, to the scholar who sits, and we trust. There's this amount of trust that we have that whatever he will impart is the truth, right? And from a young age, that's how we've been trained to think. So obviously the problem starts from there, and that's how, like, if we start to say something that is against it, it doesn't register. I can understand why there is backlash. It is totally understandable, because I was like that. I was a part of that community too. So it's understandable. But so now that we know that the problem exists, the solution to that problem should come from there as well. There needs to have like a dialogue between us and the scholars.
Well, inshallah, we pray for hidayah. Let me go on to this. Okay, so we have the Quran and the authentic teachings of the Ahlul Bayt give us this clear picture about God centricity, right? And then it shows us how firmly opposed our Imams were towards any manifestation of Imam centricity, and that's what Sayyid Ali Haider was saying. So then, how is it that we have fallen into precisely what the Quran and our Imams warned us against, and feared so much for us, that they kept on telling us, do not fall into this particular trap? I mean, it's proving difficult for some of our community members to realign themselves to the simple and clear teachings of the Imam, and of course, I mean, a forgiving God. So why do you think this is happening?
Me?
Any one of you, it's open.
I think, Brother Samir,
What was our footing? Where did we go wrong?
Right, if I may, we have to see that from the beginning of our existence, as in the existence of humanity with Baba Adam, alayhi salam, Allah's peace and blessings be upon our father, from the very beginning, we have had an enemy, a very stellar enemy with a lot of weaponry and a lot of gusto, and that's Shaitan. Shaitan's always been there, and he made a solemn promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I am going to attack them from the front, from the back, from the left, from the right. I'm going to come to them in all ways. And he has sworn to bring down Bani Adam. Adam was his enemy, Bani Adam was his enemy, he's the enemy of all of us. He is out to get every single one of us. And we always have to be on guard. And that is part of taqwa. Taqwa means to be on guard, to have that awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make sure that you never slip. You always be on guard to protect yourself from that which is wrong. So this is one part. Second part is that we have to look at intentions and our aims and missions and purposes. A lot of our community members, we have to ask them and we have to implore them that, realign your maqasid. What are your maqasid? What are your intentions? Is your intention coming close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Unfortunately, what has happened is that that's not where we are focused. This is what I would like to submit, that our communities are not focused on what is it that Allah wants. Our communities are focused on, and let me say this very frankly, no one get angry on this, please. No one take offense. Listen to this with a very cool and calm heart. Our communities are focused on cultural life. We enjoy the food. Everyone enjoys food. We enjoy the social gatherings. We enjoy the fact that we can put on really nice, good clothes of multivaried colors when it comes to khushalis. We enjoy the gatherings together in Muharram, and in the commemorations, we come in our black clothes, and we have our Naha Khans there. We have our Marsiya Khans there. We all want a chance, or our children, or those that we like, to be able to speak on the mic, to be able to recite in a beautiful voice. We enjoy the ceremonies of Matam. We enjoy the solidarity and the brotherhood that comes about when we come together culturally. But this is not what Islam is. I'm not saying anything against any of these things. I love food myself. Okay, I will admit that. I will confess. But this is not what Islam is about. Islam is not about these cultural gatherings. And let me tell you something else, which is a little slightly away, but totally within the subject here. And that is that a lot of people take deen as a side business. Deen is not your main thing. Focusing on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants is not your main thing. That's your side thing. And they'll tell you, especially a lot of our elders, may we treat them with respect, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them. But I think they're a little off when they try to tell us that, do not get involved in all these matters of deen. Live a good, calm, peaceful life, which means go to the khushalis, enjoy them, go to the commemorations, do your mourning, eat your food, wear your clothes, have good relations with others. Don't get involved in all this religious business. What is that telling you? That is telling you the mindset that we have is focused on the cultural mindset. We are having a good life. Let us enjoy that good life. As long as we say that we love the Ahlul Bayt, we're doing our prayers, we're doing our fasting in Ramadan, all is well and good. Yeah. Is it really that simple? Well, if it was that simple, the Quran would be one page. You have to be more than one page. There's a whole book of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, this is your constitution. We have to ask ourselves, how much of this book do we take as our constitution, and how much of it do we read? If we look on the side of the mainstream Muslims, every Ramadan, they're trying to complete the whole book and see the whole of it. That's true, and I'm not trying to criticize us in comparative terms, but I'm saying that how much of the Quran we need to ask ourselves, are we reading every year? We need to revise this constitution. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this is a mithaq. This is an agreement between you and Allah. When you purchase a property, do you write an agreement? Do you look at every clause there? You're very particular that there won't be a clause that's going to catch you on the wrong side. So this is your mithaq with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Are we focused on the Quran? No. Are we focused on deen? No, we are focused on culture. And this is where we went wrong. Until and unless we change our mindset and tune it back from culture to the Quran, to the mithaq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are not going to find God centricity. We're going to find cultural centricity wherever that culture be. And currently that culture is in the mindset that whatever you say in praise of the Ahlul Bayt is great and wonderful, however exaggerated it might be. At the end of the day, that's the cultural mindset that we are in, and we need to break out of that cocoon, out of that cultural mindset, and get into a God-centric mindset whose foundation is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Thank you for that. Kamran, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I agreed with what Sayyid Ali Heather said, and I just want to add to that to your original question of what's the issue, like why is it hard for us to kind of adopt the God centricity model that the Imams left us. I think honestly it has to do a lot with like the programming that we have from a young age, where it just feels like we have this kind of mindset where to truly love the Ahlul Bayt, we have to be Shia, and not just Shia. We have to be like proper 12er Shia, and going against and the beliefs that are of the 12ers. That's kind of the way that they have kind of like the monopoly of the Ahlul Bayt. You have to be with them and align with them to be a proper lover of the Ahlul Bayt. Otherwise, you're against them, and we have this mentality where if we question any of these beliefs, of like praying to other than Allah and related topics, we like unintentionally, we like kind of like emotionally like blackmail ourselves, where we think that if we agree with these topics, if we agree with these points, that we're actually now going away from the Ahlul Bayt, that we're against them, we're becoming Wahhabi, we're becoming like Nasibi, it's just, we have like these barriers in place, whether it was installed by our upbringing or like from our teaching of Islam and stuff. But like it's just this kind of, if you're in the early stages of where you're like, oh, that makes sense, like we should pray only to Allah and this is what the Imam said, but you have the emotional component as well, where it's like, oh, but like if I say that, then it's like, am I being like a Wahhabi Shia? Am I being like against the Ahlul Bayt? Like these kind of things, I feel like they come into play and kind of like hinder us from just going forward with what we actually are convinced with. We like kind of, we falter with that kind of like emotional, putting too much emphasis on the emotional aspect and not going with what logically makes sense to us.
Yeah, that's the thought that I've been thinking about how what I was taught is something that we sort of been holding dear to, and then now when change is upon us, we have to open our hearts. But thank you for that. Before I give the floor to Sister Hiba, Khadija, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we rely a lot on spoon-fed information, right? And that's how we've been ingrained since the very beginning, which is why the problems all exist, right? But also the identity that we are Shias, we are different. It is something that goes way back. It's not something that we were born with. It is something that goes way back, like from the Safavi period. I would assume it's the Safavi period that really, kind of demarcated, like, okay, now we are Shias, we have this identity, and since then I think it's just become a part of our identity, right? That we are different and this is our certain kind of belief systems. And I guess human psychology works that way also, that, oh, we are unique, we're different, and we must be right, and obviously our books claim the same thing, right? If we read through our books. But if we don't read the Quran, on the other hand, we see so many verses which ask us to use our aql, right? Use it again and again. I think the most of the verses in the Quran, they encourage you to think for yourself and contemplate and ponder. So these are things which we should really take back and not feel offended, rather than feel threatened or challenged by what we as Islaah or ISNAD or whatever we are doing, but rather take it as something that that, okay, there are certain problems that do exist, and clearly they exist, and people are speaking out. Now there is a necessity for dialogue, open dialogue with respect.
No, what you're saying is very, very true, because in the Quran it always says the signs are there, the signs are clear. I mean, it's upon us to see these signs. I mean, exactly. That's what you're saying. I mean, yeah, we're being spoon-fed, but there are some signs that we have to figure out with our aql. So yeah, thank you for that. Sister Hiba,
and that's our responsibility.
Yes, indeed. It's our responsibility. Thank you for that. Sister Hiba, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I agree with all the comments that have been made. I think they're such beautiful points that everyone has touched on. I think personally, what I've experienced when speaking with people about this, especially my immediate family, is the question, why are you digging so deep? Is what we not have enough? And this idea of people following what they are already comfortable in, this idea, the nature of man, that they're a social creature and that the blind following of their forefathers. It's what they feel most comfortable with. I think all of us here, and I think that is something that really leads us to want to revive or reform, whichever word you prefer, the whole religion that we found ourselves upon. And I think this idea that if you focus on Allah alone, the Allah centricity, God centricity somehow puts down the status of the Ahlul Bayt. I think that is extremely concerning if people think like that, because you're then putting the Ahlul Bayt and Allah on the same level, whereby the same attributes are found in both of them, that they are 1 in 2 and 2 in 1. And where do we hear that idea? It sounds very familiar. 1 in 3, 3 in 1. It sounds very similar to the Trinity. And it's like if we apply this to, let's say, Prophet Ibrahim's story in the Quran, whereby, he asked his people, what are you doing? And they say, oh, we found our forefathers following this way. Then he said, no, follow the way of God. And for them, it was like, if we were in that time and we were called Wahhabi, I think that is such a big, that in itself is so concerning, that you're promoting the God centricity, but then you're being called a Wahhabi for doing so. Like, I remember I was listening to engineer Muhammad Ali Mirza, and he said something along the lines of, if Imam Ali was here and, if he was promoting Tawheed and Tawheed alone, and then people would start calling him a Wahhabi too. So it's like, you prepare your whole life for Imam Mahdi to return. Yeah, if he returns or if he comes with the message of Tawheed, would you still be calling him Wahhabi because he's not promoting this Imam centricism? And I think it's a really concerning thing, whereby you're literally just having a discussion and people are asking you, why are you digging so deep? Are you not really happy with what you are? Our whole lives, we've taught you this, we've taught you that. And then you question what you believe in because you found authority, you found sultan, you found dalil in the Quran and the hadith, the authentic hadith, and then you're being told to not believe that and to just carry on following what you're comfortable with. I think any person who deploys their intellectual abilities will not agree with that. So I think that's really something to ponder upon.
Indeed. And yeah, I mean, I saw a meme, and I'm just going to explain it very, very quickly. It's a cage with 3 divers inside, and there's a shark outside who says, you will not be able to achieve anything if you stay in your comfort zone. Okay, we're not the shark here. That's what I want to say. We're not the shark here. So don't look at us like that. If you are in your comfort zone and you don't want to get out of it, it's futile. You're not doing anything. You're not moving. And we are supposed to develop. Isn't one of the things that God is going to see and going to check is if our souls have developed from what they were till the day, our souls were taken back. The connection was severed, rather. So, these are things that come to mind, of course. But inshallah, we see how we go ahead. I've exhausted my questions for today. So I'll leave the floor open to anybody who would like to close today. I'm giving you the moderatorship to close. Anybody, literally.
I vote Sayyid Ali Huruf, close it. I put Sayyid Ali Huruf forward.
All right, Sayyid, you have the floor.
No, I think that I've been really enjoying and benefiting listening to, mashallah, all that our panelists have to contribute and put forth in terms of insights. I think our community should be really proud and should be really grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessing of such visionary intellectual youths. I mean, it's just so beautiful listening to them, and relating their experiences and their insights and how they have, come to the path and what the way forward is, what the problem is, what the solution is. I think we've had a beautiful conversation tonight, and I just wish we had more such youths in our communities to take this forward, because ultimately even the Holy Prophet ﷺ used to say that when I came out with Tawheed, it was the elders who opposed me for the most part, and it was the youths who he responded to me, and that's why he always had this soft spot for the youths. He used to say, "Istawsu bishababi khayra." Take care of them, be nice to them, because they were the first ones to respond to me. And so that's what we see here, is that even in our communities, alhamdulillah, even though we have a sizable number of elders who have responded very favorably to Islaah and they've supported it, and that's indeed a testament to how they've kept their critical thinking alive. But alhamdulillah, it's so great to see the youths, mashallah, contributing to this movement and contributing to this initiative and sharing their beautiful insights, which I feel so privileged and so blessed to have the opportunity to actually hear from their mouths and to really ponder and reflect. It's food for thought for everyone. These are our youths. These are our future. I believe our elders, our youths, our children, everyone should be listening to them and pondering and reflecting over the food for thought that they're offering us.
Thank you so much for that. You realize you still have a black beard, huh? So you are a youth. All right. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, the panelists, all of you, for sharing your time, your insight, your knowledge, your experiences. I don't know. May the Lord give you more in whatever your du'as and your halal wishes are. So we'll see you, inshallah, in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as usual. Ma salam.